Welcome to the Chapter 7 lecture on Triads from the Musician's Guide to Theory and Analysis. In this chapter, we're going to be learning about triads, how we combine intervals to form triads. We will identify triad types and learn how they function in different musical contexts. All right, let's head to the book. Right away, let's listen to 7.1. So pause the video now and listen to 7.1. So as you heard, this is a piece of music in a series of variations. Each varies its rhythmic patterns. In the right hand of example 7.1, it highlights the main topic of the chapter, the triad. So when two or more intervals sound together at the same time, they form what we call a chord. The pitches in the chord usually sound all at once, but may also appear in succession. That's super important because we'll talk about that later. Three-note chords can be represented as two-thirds, one above another, and we call those triads, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you look at measure 33, as you can see, the shaded triad is GBD, made up of two intervals of a third, G to B and B to D. So if we look here, interval from G to B, and then B to D. So those are the two-thirds that we see there. Now listen to example 7.2. You see in the left hand, more thirds stack up to create triads. If you look at measures 9, 12, and 13, the notes of the triad are spread out, or what we call arpeggiated, to form a cool melody. And all these triads that you see are in root position, which means the triad is spelled in thirds, root, fifth, and third, or root, third, fifth. So here's the example. You can see here that it has the triad and it spelled it out correctly there with a G, B, and D, where it has the root, third, and the fifth. And then here we have an E chord with E, G, B. We also have this chord right here, which is a D, F sharp, A. A G chord again, which is G, B, D. And then this chord here, which is C, E, G. All those stack up in thirds. When triads are spelled in thirds, the interval between the lowest note, the root, and the highest note, the fifth, is a fifth. In the middle pitch, the third lies a third above the root. When the root is in the lowest sounding voice, we call this root position. Okay, I will be talking about that a lot, where we're going to talk about root position triads. We'll also be talking about different inversions, and I'll be talking about that later in the video. All right, now we're going to be talking about chord quality. Chord quality. So just like scales, we can have major and minor sounding triads. So the major triad has a major third between its root and third, and a minor third between its third and fifth. Now the minor triad, which is the opposite of the major triad, which has a minor third between the root and the third, and a major third on the top. In both major and minor triads, the fifth is a perfect fifth. So if you look down here, between F and A is a major third, between A and C is a minor third, and then between F and C is a perfect fifth. Here's the F minor triad, so we have a minor third between F and A flat, and a major third between A flat and C, and then a perfect fifth between F and C. At the bottom here, I also show the F diminished chord and the F augmented chord. So a diminished chord is stacks of two minor thirds, an augmented chord is stacks of two major thirds. So a diminished chord is a minor triad with a lowered fifth scale degree, so a diminished fifth on it, And then the augmented chord is a major third or a major interval added with a augmented fifth at the top for the fifth. If you look at 7.4, there are triads written above each note of the G major scale, along with different ways to label these chords. You can refer to these we can refer to the triads by scale degree, or on the scale degree they're built, or by their scale degree name, or the Roman numerals below the staff. So we can talk about triads as their tonic triad, their supertonic triad, the median triad, etc., etc. Or we can talk about them as the Roman numerals here. Or we can also talk to them about their pop chord symbols as well. So Roman numerals are super handy. You'll be getting to know Roman numerals very well. So Roman numerals label both the chord's scale degree position, 1 to 7. You can see that here. And also there is either a major triad or a minor triad. So capital Roman numerals, 1, 4, and 5 here are examples of major ones. So you can see small letter or small Roman numerals indicate minor triads. For diminished triads, we add a small raised circle, a superscript circle to the lowercase numeral. So 7 diminished right there. And then for augmented triads, we add a small plus, and you can see that here with the 3 augmented, it's a little plus. When using Roman numerals, always indicate the key to the left, as in example 7.4, to place the numerals in context. Write a capital letter for major keys and a lowercase for minor keys. So for example, if we had F major, we would write a 1 chord, a 4 chord, a 2 chord, etc. If it was a minor key, we would write little g, 1, let's do 4, can do a 5, etc. So using the letters to tell us that we're in minor and major keys. If you look at example 7.5, it shows the scale degree triads. Okay, so and also memorize what triads are which quality. Okay, so as you can see here in letter A, the 1, 4, and 5 chord are major. 2, 3, and 6 are the minor triads. And then 7 is a diminished chord. Okay, these are very important to know. So memorize this. So if you saw a full D major, it'd be a 1, 2, 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7. All right, now you're going to complete triad 1. In letter A, you will write the scale degree number it is based on and the Roman numeral is based on. In letter B, you will complete the E-flat major scale and then write the appropriate triad above each scale degree. Please complete this and then go on for the answers. All right, here is the letter A example. So they gave us measure 9's example. So let's go to measure 11. Okay, so the E there is the root of the chord. So which scale degree is E in G major? It is scale degree 6. Okay, and then remembering back to the part of the lecture where you learned about which triads were which, the 6th scale degree triad is minor. All right, if we go to measure 12, here, you can see it's D, F sharp, A, so that's a D major chord, and that's on scale degree 5. And so again, it's a D major chord, so it's a major 5 chord. All right, looking at measure 13, So you can see here we have a GBD, so that's scale degree 1 it's based on, so that's a 1 chord, which is major. And then 14 we have a CEG chord, which is based on scale degree 4. And again, thinking back, the 4 chord is major. All right, let's complete the B section of Triad number 1. So we're building all our chords on our E flat major scale. So I'm going to zoom in here to make it easier for me, right? So we have E flat, F, and G so far. So then we need to have an A flat. Oops, I'll switch to black. A flat, B flat, C, D, and E flat. All right, so let's build our chords. So we have an F, A flat, and C. So we have G, B flat, and D. A, C, E flat, B flat, D, F, C, E flat, G, D, F, A flat. That's poorly drawn, apologize. And then E flat, G, B flat. And again, these are in E flat major. So this is a major chord, which is the 1 chord, minor chord, which is the 2 chord, another minor chord, which is the 3 chord, 4 chord is major, 5 chord is major, the 6th chord is minor, the 7th chord is diminished, and again the 1 chord is major. So that's what you should have look. I'm sure yours will look better than mine, but I'm drawing on an iPad. So again, remembering which chords are what quality will be super helpful, especially when it comes to major and minor keys. So if you look at example 7.6 in the book, this is an example with root position Roman numerals. And you'll see they're not written the whole time. That first chord is a 6th chord, and the second one is the same chord, so you don't have to rewrite the Roman numerals. It's all about simplicity. So we have the minor 6, the minor 2, the major 5, and the 1 chord. Okay, and all of these are in root position. Okay, that's super important to know. Okay, and there are both major and minor Roman numerals written there. You can use Roman numerals to analyze patterns in music and progressions of chords. When you analyze music, not all triads are created equal. Some triads, 1 and 5, appear more than others. I'll tell you right now, 1 and 5 are huge chord numbers in all music, so be aware you'll be seeing those a lot as we analyze music in the future. All right, now we've looked at major keys. We're going to now move on to minor keys. So this is the natural minor scale, and we're going to build our chords over the natural minor scale. As you can see here, we have the Roman numerals written. Okay. So in minor keys, the 1 chord is minor, and in major keys, the 1 chord is major. In major keys, 2 is minor. In the natural minor scale, 2 is diminished. In the minor scale, 3 is major, but in the major scale, 3 is minor. So if we were thinking about this in G major, 1, 2, and 3. And then in minor, the 4th scale degree is minor, but remembering in G major, the 4th scale degree is major. In the natural minor scale, the 5 chord is minor. Okay, and in major keys, the 5 chord is major. In the natural minor scale, the 6th chord is major, and in major keys, the 6th chord is minor. And in natural minor, the 7th chord is major, and in major keys, the 7th chord is diminished. Okay. Again, these are all labeled very similarly as they are when we are labeling the scale degrees, like the tonic chord. the minor dominant chord, okay? There's the median subdominant, etc., etc. So those are good things to know. So if you think back to the last slide, that was the natural minor scale. Now we're going to talk about the leading tone, where when we're added, this is added when we have the harmonic scale, harmonic minor scale, when you raise the 7th scale degree, okay? Because in natural minor, we have a flat 7th scale degree, right? So when we add the leading tone to the natural minor scale, which makes it a harmonic scale, the 5 chord becomes major because we have the raised 7th scale degree, and the 7 chord becomes diminished because we raised that. Okay, so it becomes very much like the end of a major scale. So be aware of that as because this harmonic minor scale happens a lot in music. So you'll be seeing in minor keys that leading tone exist. This major 3 augmented chord doesn't happen very often, but it's good to know about. Sometimes you do see it. So if we add that leading tone in our scale, the 3 chord becomes augmented. So let's summarize what we've just learned. So we're here, let's talk about major keys first. So major keys, the triads on scale degree 1, 4, and 5 are major. 2, 3, and 6, they're minor, and that 7th scale degree is diminished. All right, and minor keys, 1 and 4 are minor, 5 and flat 6 are major. Triads on 2 and 7 are diminished. Okay, and remember we're talking about the harmonic minor. And the triad on the flat 3 is usually major, okay, when we have the flat 7. But if we have the leading tone, it becomes that major 3 augmented. All right, complete triad 2. So you're going to write the appropriate triad above each scale degree in C minor, and then you're going to write the triad qualities on the blanks provided. So we're going to be both looking at the C natural minor scale and then adding the harmonic minor scale with that leading tone where we are raising the 7th scale degree. All right, let's complete triad 2. As always, we just complete the scale. So we have E flat, we have an F, and then a G, and then an A flat, and then a B flat, and then a C. Okay, so let's complete the triads. So I'm going to write also the Roman numerals just so you keep getting those in your brain. So we're in C minor here. So the 1 is minor, so D, F, A flat, which is a diminished chord. So we have the 2 diminished chord. So then 3 chord E flat, B flat, which is major, which is the major 3 chord. And then here we have F, A flat, and then C, which is minor, which is the minor 4 chord. And then here we have G, B flat, and D, which is minor, which is the minor 5 chord. And then A flat, C, and E flat, which is major, which is the major 6 chord. And then we have B flat, D, and F, which is major as well, which is the major 7 chord. And then finally we have our C, E flat, G chord. Actually, I'm going to try that again. I apologize for poorly writing that. So we have C, E flat, and G, which is a minor chord. And again, that's the 1 chord. All right, so let's look at the 5 chord and the 7 chord when we add the leading tone. Remember, the leading tone is the raised 7th scale degree. So in this case, we'll be raising the B flats here. So the B flat becomes B natural. So the 5 chord, so which is usually G, B flat, D, is now G, B natural, D, which makes it major. And then we have to build off the B natural, D, F, which is diminished. So that's what you should have. Please, if you have any questions, make sure you come and see me when you can. I want to help you in any way possible. In the next few slides, we're going to be talking about spelling triads, and you can spell them many different ways. You can spell them by interval. We can spell them by building intervals on top of each other. We can use something called the C major method, and then the last method is by key signature. So first one we're going to explore is by interval. So you can do this, so there's 2 steps to this. So off the root, you add a perfect fifth to it. Okay? So for a major triad, you add a major third above the root, and then a perfect fifth. For a minor triad, you add a minor third with a perfect fifth. For diminished triads, you always start with the root. Okay, for a diminished triad, you have a minor third plus a diminished fifth. And then for an augmented triad, you create a major third, and then you add an augmented fifth. So this is similar to the last method, but this is again by interval. So you can just think about the different chord quality types. So for a major triad, you put a major third plus a minor third. For a minor third, you do a minor third plus a major third. For a diminished chord, you put a minor third and a minor third together. For augmented, you put a major third and a major third together. All right, now we're going to talk about the C major method. Okay, so thinking about the major triads of 1, 4, and 5, and then the minor triads of 2, 3, and 6, and diminished triad, which is 7. So if triads on what, you can think of the triads of C, F, and G, which are major, okay? So if you just lower them or raise them by half steps, they are also major. If you think about the G major chord, if you lower the third, it becomes minor. If you think about a major triad, this is crazy right here, look at that. Major triad, but you just lower the third, it becomes a minor triad. So if you can see here, we have a G major triad right here, that becomes G minor. We have a G sharp major triad and then a G sharp minor triad. And then to make a chord augmented, you just raise the fifth of it. So we had a G major, which is the 5 chord. You just raise the fifth to a D sharp, that makes it augmented. So here in this case, the triads on D, E, and A are minor. And if all the accidentals match, to make a triad, you just raise the third, a chromatic half step. To change the diminished triad, lower the fifth, a chromatic half step. So here we have our A minor triad. If you just change the accidentals, it still is a minor triad. To make a minor triad major, you raise the third. So you can see we have C natural there, and then you raise it to C sharp. And then to make a minor triad, so we have an A flat minor triad here. To make it a major chord, you raise the third. So we had a C flat here, and then you raised it to a C natural, which made it major. And then to make it a diminished triad, you take the fifth and you lower it. However that is, and in this case, you make the E flat. And then talking about diminished chords, so triads on B remain diminished if all the accidentals match. To make a minor triad, you raise the fifth, a chromatic half step. To make a major triad, raise both the third and the fifth, a chromatic half step. So here we have our diminished. If you just change the accidentals, also diminished. To make a diminished chord a minor triad, you raise the 5th scale degree. So we had F natural here. You raise it to F sharp. And now to make a diminished chord major, you have to raise the 3rd and 5th scale degrees of that chord. And then the last one is by key signature. So this is how I do it, and like hopefully by the time you're finished with this class, how you'll think about it. The third way to spell triad is by thinking of the key signatures. Imagine the root of the chord, of a major or minor chord, is the same as the tonic in a key, okay? So the tonic, which is the scale degree 1, and the upper notes lie in the scale. So a major triad, think of the roots, so major key, and then you write 1, 3, and 5 of that key. If you were writing a minor triad, think of the minor key signature and write 1, flat 3, and 5. If you're writing a diminished triad, you lower the 5th of a minor triad, a half step, and then the augmented, you raise the 5th of a major triad, a chromatic half step. All right, complete triad number 3 and complete the triads using any method you choose. When you go on, go on. When you're finished, go on for the answers. All right, so for this triad, I'm going to try to do all the methods possible, and I'm going to see if I can do that with all of these in some way, shape, or form. All right, so let's first try by the interval technique. So this first chord is asking for a major triad. Okay, so that first method is you write a perfect 5th up, which is an E flat, and then a major 3rd above A flat, which is C. So that's an A flat major triad. All right, a minor triad here. So we can think about it in the stacking intervals. So in a minor triad, we want a minor 3rd and then a major 3rd. So a minor 3rd above E is G, and a major 3rd above G is B. All right, let's think about the C major method here. So they're asking for a major key. So if we think about the C major one, if we have F, A, C, which is a major chord, which is the 4 chord in C major, we just have to raise. So we have F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. So that's the C major method. All right, let's do an augmented triad. So let's do the stacking way. So the augmented triad is you stack a major 3rd, which is G, and then a augmented 5th, which would be B. All right, let's do the key signature method for number 6. So they're asking for a minor chord here. So if we're in D flat minor, which would be a crazy key, okay, because it doesn't exist. Dun, dun, dun. I chose the wrong one, but we can figure it out. So let's just hypothetically think there's a D flat minor somewhere out there. So we can just start with writing our triad, D, F, A, okay. So as always, you have to write a perfect 5th, which is an A flat. And then to make this minor, if you think about a minor 3rd up from D flat, which is an F flat. All right, here we go. Second line, be aware we're in the bass clef. Okay, so let's do the minor. Let's do it stack in thirds. So a minor 3rd above B is D, and a major 3rd above D is F sharp. All right, I'm going to do the stacking method for the minor chord here. So we're going to create a D sharp minor chord, which is crazy. Okay, I've never really seen that, but here we go. So A minor third above D sharp is an F sharp, and a major third above F sharp is A sharp. All right, augmented. Let's do this as a major chord. So it would be D, so sorry, F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, but to augment it, you have to raise the fifth, be double sharp. And then 10, which is a diminished chord, so we can do it in our, so you create a diminished fifth, which would be an A flat, and then a minor third, which is an F. All right, we can think about this in the key signature way. So this is a B flat chord, so it would be B flat F, D F, but we need to augment it, so it'd be an F sharp. And then the major key, so this would be G sharp major. So G, B, D, so G sharp, B sharp, D sharp. All right, so this is going to be the trickiest part of triads, is learning about what we call inversions or inverted chords. Okay, so if you can see here, we have a root position chord here, which is root, third, fifth. This one here is, as you can see, the third is in the bass and the root is up here. Okay, so we call this first inversion. Okay, you see that here as well, which is supposed to be an FAC chord. Okay, FAC, but they put the F above it, so the third is in the root and the bass, so that makes this first inversion. So when the root of the triad is in the bass, as we have seen, the triad is in root position. Okay, so if the root, okay, that's important, root, not the bass, the root of the chord is in the bass, we call this root position. Okay, so if the third is in the bass, it's called first inversion. If the fifth is in the bass, the triad is in second inversion. And like I just emphasized, the term root and bass cannot be confused. Okay, so any member of the triad, root, third, and fifth, can be in the bass. Okay, so the root of the chord is like the scale degree 1 of the chord, if you think of it that way. It's the tonic of the chord, but we call it the root. Some notes on inverted chords. So second inversion chords, they happen, but they're not often. They don't happen very often because they are weak in sense of harmony. So you'll see more first inversion and root position triads because it's hard to tune second inversion chords because of its dissonant harmonic fourth between the bass and the upper voice. So if you see here, I want you to listen to this really quick. So pause the video and listen to it. So as you can see, we have a root position 1 chord here. And then we have a first inversion. Okay, so it's supposed to be FAC, which would be a root chord, root position chord. But we have a 4 in first inversion, where the F is not in the bass. We have the third in the bass, which is the A. Okay, and then here we have a second inversion 1 chord, okay, where the fifth is in the bass. So the G is in the bass, and the C and the E, the root and the third, are above it. Okay, so these are called inverted chords. So root position, first inversion, second inversion. And these are really important to understand. So if you have any questions, please let me know as soon as you can. All right, to help identify the root and Roman numeral of an inverted triad, think about how the chord would be notated if they were in root position. Okay. So if you look in example 711, you'll see that in the FAC chord, measure 3, beat 9, the C is below the F. Okay. On the beat 4, the C, E, G, the G below the C. Okay, so this is how you identify when things are in first and second inversion. So noticing when the root is not in the bass and noticing, okay, which is in the bass, the root, the third, or the fifth will tell us what inversion we're in. All right, so in triad number 4, you're going to identify the Roman numeral and the inversion for each left-hand triad. Make sure the Roman numerals show the correct chord quality, major, minor, diminished. Okay, when going on, when you're finished, go on for the answers. All right, so let's go to beat 2 of measure 30. So this one right here. Okay, so what is that chord? That is a 7 chord, or sorry, 7 diminished chord in first inversion. And then we have beat 3 here, which is a first inversion chord because the root is not in the bass, but the third is. Okay, but then that's a 1 chord. Okay, so measure 31, beat 1, which is a first inversion chord as well, because the third is in the bass. And that's an A minor chord, which is the 2 chord. And in measure 32, beat 1. You can see that triad right there, GBD, which is the 1 chord, and that is in root position. All right, if you look at example 7.12, I want you to look at the bottommost part of that example and then listen to it. So this comes from a Baroque era chamber work for 2 violins and what we call basso continuo. Basso continuo is a keyboard accompaniment notated with figures above its bass line. Okay, so and we call that figured bass. Figured bass consists of a bass line with numbers written under it or near it. The numbers represent the intervals to be played above the bass, which make the different types of chords. So if you can see here on the bottom line here, this is what I was talking about. Okay, that's what a lot of players, keyboard players from the Baroque era saw. Okay, they wouldn't see this part. All they would see is the bass line with the figured bass under it, and they would have to make up or improvise this top part. So if you look at example 7.13, figured bass symbols for these intervals are shown, okay, and I'll explain more about those in the upcoming slides. Root position chords are indicated with the numerals 5-3. When the triad is in first inversion, the intervals above the bass are 6th and the 3rd. So when a triad is in first inversion, we would use a 6-3 as a figured bass. And then when a triad is in second inversion, where the 5th is in the bass, the intervals are a 6th and a 4th above the bass note. And this is the least common and least stable chord. So this is what I was talking about. So as you can see, a root position chord, there's a 3rd and a 5th. So that's why we call it 5-3. Okay, so we have a 6-3, so we have a 3rd and a 6th. Okay, and again, there's the root and there's the root. And then a 6-4 chord, where there's a 4th above the bass note and a 6th above the bass note. So here are some triads in root and where the bass is doubled. Okay, so here's root position, first inversion, second inversion. Okay, these are all the same chords, okay, but they're just all in different inversions. So talking about figured bass again, Baroque keyboard players needed to read the bass line and the figures quickly to know what intervals or chords to play so the symbols that they saw were made simple. So the example of 5-3 is the most common, so it was left out. So if you are analyzing music and you don't see any figured bass there, you will assume that is a root position chord. Okay, then the figure of 6-3 was shortened to just 6. So let's say we were going on and we saw a 1 chord, a 1-6 chord, and then a 1-6-4. So this is a root position, first inversion, second inversion. Okay, again, like I said, the figure 6-4 is used for the less usual second inversion. The full figure to use to avoid confusion with the 6-3. Okay. All right, so there are some other things about figure bass that I need to explain to you about. So in figured bass, sometimes you need to alter the pitches above the bass note. Remember, the bass note, not the root of the chord, the bass, okay? So when you see a sharp, okay, when you see an accidental by itself, a sharp or a flat, okay, if you look over here in example D, okay, that affects the note a third above the bass note, okay, the bass, not the root, but the bass. Okay, so the bass note here is A, okay, and we're in a root position chord, so a third above A is C, so you raise C to C sharp, okay? So here we have a 6-3 chord. Sorry, I got stuck in my brain here. So 6-3 chord, which is a first inversion chord, okay? So, but you still, a third above the bass here, okay? So again, the accidental here affects the third above the bass. So a third above the bass is still C, which makes that C sharp, okay? Now, the slash notation means you raise the pitch a sixth above the bass note, okay? So that's either using a sharp, or if you have to use a natural, use a natural. So what's a sixth above E? Okay, which is C, okay? And then it becomes a C sharp. Now this happens, the same thing here. There's an accidental by itself. That means you flat the third. So we have a G, a third above G is B, and then you flat it, okay? And then this one here, a natural, same idea. We're in a root position D chord, okay? Because of the key signature, we have an F sharp here, okay? So to naturalize the third, which would have been the F sharp, you naturalize the F, okay? When you see an accidental, you have to remember that that affects the third above the bass note, not the root note, but the bass note of the chord. Okay, so it could be in an inversion. Okay, when you see that sharp, you assume that it affects the third. Okay, and again here, the 6-3 chord, you see the sharp under the 6. That means it affects the third above the bass. You sometimes use figures and Baroque musicians did to represent interval of the bass, okay? You will use those figures along with Roman numerals to identify the chords, scale degree, quality, inversion. This provides a lot of information in one space, okay? So figured bass basically is really important, okay? And you need to use this when analyzing music because it'll help put music together. All right, complete triad 5 and 6. Okay, 5, you'll write the 3 notes of the triad indicated by the bass and the figures. Make sure you add the correct accidentals. Okay, and in number 6, the bass line of example 7.12 is on the next slide. Fill out the blanks with the Roman numerals and the inversions. All right, so let's write some chords above our figured bass symbols. Okay, so letter B here. It's a root position D chord. Yay, that's easy. Okay. So the next one, we have a first inversion chord. Okay. So if this is in first inversion, we need to add one more bass note. So it'd be D F sharp, A, okay, and then it says raise the sixth, the interval of the sixth above that, which would be the D, so we write a D sharp. All right, so we have a 6/4 chord here, so originally spelled A, C, E, okay, so we would write that above A, C, and E, okay, and then we have to raise the sixth above the root, which would be that. All right, so now here we have a first inversion chord. We have to flat the third, so first inversion would be G, B, D. We write that up here in keyboard notation. And then with this flat here, we have to flat the third of that. Boom, done. And then another first inversion chord, but we have to raise the three, so this would be A, C, E. Okay, we can write that up here, A, C, E. Raise the third of that, C sharp. All right, so let's write some Roman numerals here. So let's figure out what we have to do. Okay, so we're in the key of D minor, okay, and we start out with our one chord. So again, D minor, D is Do, or D is scale degree 1, okay, also scale degree 1 up here. Okay, so if this is in first inversion, okay, we would have to have one note below it, so this is a 1/6 chord. And then we have, if we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's scale degree 5, so this would be a 5 chord. And because we have the third above it raised, that makes it a major triad, okay, because this is raising that T, okay. All right, so again, we're in harmonic minor here, and we have that raised 7th scale degree. So this is a first inversion chord, would be A, C sharp, E, okay? So this would make it a major 5/6 chord. And then, scale degree 1, which is D, major, or a minor chord, which is 1, okay? And then, so this is a first inversion chord, so if you need to think about it, we have this chord here, which is G, B, and D, okay? So G, B, flat, and D in the scale of D minor is a 4 chord, but it's in first inversion, so 4/6. And then again, we have an A, C, E, which has a major C sharp in there, okay? It's just like this chord over here, but not in first inversion, so it's just a major 5 chord. And I promise we'll go over this more in class. It's just, this was a quick, brief run through so you can think about it. And so we have some Roman numerals in place. I promise we'll talk about this more in class. So now let's talk about pop music notation. This is going to be a quick going through of this, okay? So like those of you that look up stuff on YouTube and on like guitar chord websites, this is the kind of notation that you see, but it still applies, okay? So harmonies are commonly notated with chord symbols above the melody line. This notation is commonly known as lead sheet notation, okay? These symbols are read by the keyboard, bass, and other pop or jazz combo players. The capital letter name of its root is used for all triad types with added symbols or abbreviation for qualities other than major. So if you look here, so if we have an F major here, you would see an F above the lead sheet, okay? F minor, you'll see F, FM, or F dash like that. These are the two you see most commonly. This one I've seen like once or twice, especially in jazz music. Augmented chords is, you see the F plus or F sharp 5, okay? And then diminished, you see this a lot in jazz. You see this one more in like pop lead sheet music. Also, along with the chord symbols, like up here we have F, G minor, B flat, C, etc. it actually shows the fretboard diagram for guitar fingerings. So it shows you how to play an F chord, a G minor chord, a B flat chord. Okay. And it also, so it gives music here, but a lot of times a keyboard player or the bass player is looking at this and is going to make up his or her own music. Inverted triads, okay, so we talked about first and second inversion, okay. So in the key of F here, so I'm going to give you an idea of what this would look like if we had standard notation. Okay, so we're in the key of F, hooray, okay, F. So the F chord is one chord. So here we have C over E, okay. That's actually a first inversion 5 chord. Then we have a D minor chord, which is the 2 chord. A minor over C, okay, which is a super fun. So this is the 3, 6 chord, okay. So you can see it in many different ways. I read the F, C, E all the time because that's what's in the music for when I play for my praise band at my church, okay. But I also think this way sometimes because I have to do some interesting stuff with keyboard stuff. Hooray, you made it to the end of the chapter. Make sure you read the Did You Know at the end of chapter 7. It gives you the insight of how chord theory started. Before the late Baroque, early classical musical was thought as linear versus up and down like chord theory. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please see Mr. Plain. Make sure you complete the triads, and then we'll be not talking about triads because I forgot to change that. We'll be talking about 7th chords. Woo!